right place. So for those of you who might need another platform for either Chinese language help, or if for some reason Zoom doesn't cooperate for you all the time, go ahead and get yourself to YouTube. And I'm going to go and share the screen so that you can see, you can scan the QR codes. And while we're doing that, if you don't mind also opening up your chat box, your Q&A box, because this is always, as always for Tuesday Talks, we're going to be doing conversation, dialogue, engagement. So we want your questions and we want them early, because if we know what you're interested in, we can fold that into our conversation. So make sure that you have your chat box ready and your Q&A box ready. And you can scan these codes if you need them. And I just want to say a special thank you once again to our Tuesday Talk sponsors. We just keep doing these because you like them and you tell all your friends and family about them. So just want to give a special shout out to all of those schools. So it's our last Tuesday Talk for the summer, which is exciting. A little bit sad, I'll miss seeing you all, but also a little bit great for me to take a little break. But we want to make sure we make the most of it. So we'll talk about things that we should be doing or enjoying this summer, but we also can take questions about anything you want about the college application process or about these three wonderful institutions. I have some special guests with me today. They're going to introduce themselves quickly and tell us a little fun fact about themselves, and then we'll dive in and learn a little bit about their schools. So Mari, do you want to start us off?
I'm still thinking about my fun fact. My name is Mari Prower-Mutz. I'm the Associate Dean of Admission and Coordinator of International Recruitment at Colgate University, located in upstate New York. I've been ruminating on my fun fact for a while and came up with very little. So my fun fact is that I have two cats named Bo and Clyde. And every day we come up with a new name for them because we've realized that cats don't actually know their names. And so they have actually about 15 different names. And they are pandemic cats. And so they really love spending time with us and have separation anxiety.
Oh, that's fun. Wonderful. Okay, Kyle, you're next.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Smith. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Admissions at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. My fun fact is that I've played rugby in 3 different countries around the world. I'll go with that.
Wonderful. Of course, I want to ask the follow-up question, which countries?
So New Zealand, Ireland, and the United States.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Tara.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Tara Howell. I'm with Johns Hopkins University as an admissions officer. And my fun fact is that there was a three-year period of time in which I was able to win concert tickets over the radio from my favorite station. So that was very cool.
I've never won something from a radio station.
It was insane. 3 years, never again. So all of my luck for my life.
Wonderful. And I always forget to introduce myself, but my name is Gloria, and I'm one of the co-founders of Initial View, host of Tuesday Talks. And let's see, I have shared many, many fun facts, so you guys could just write my autobiography for me. But I guess today's fun fact is that I currently play the piano and sing at my church on the worship team at least once a month. So that's a new thing that I hadn't shared yet. Wonderful. Well, we're going to talk about summer. But before we do that, we're going to learn a little bit about the institutions that you all are from. And you all are from very different schools, which I love, so that we can kind of get a taste of what all the options are like in the US. So Mari's going to start and tell us a little bit about Colgate.
Yeah, so a couple of fun facts about Colgate. We are one of the oldest institutions in the United States. We were founded in the very early 1800s, and our lucky number is 13. So we were founded on 13 men and 13 prayers and $13. they established basically the clause of the university that is now Colgate that had 13 different clauses to it. And so we are very deep rooted in tradition. We are a liberal arts and sciences college, but we sort of mix the best of a liberal arts and science college with a research institution to kind of come up with this harmonious, larger, small undergraduate institution. So we have about 3,200 students. They're coming from all 50 states, as well as 85 different countries. And as you can see by this image here, we are very much in a rural location. And so the closest major metropolitan city is about an hour away from campus, but it creates a very intentional community on campus where students really enjoy engaging in this deep-rooted residential life. They also have access to faculty members because most of our faculty members live directly in the town of Hamilton that we're located in. So it's very common to see your professors on the weekends at the farmers market or with their kids at the bagel shop. And the first time you do outside of class, it's a little bit of an out of body experience. And you're like, I don't think I'm supposed to have this conversation here right now while I look like this. And then you just realize that that's what the Colgate community is about. And we've all chosen to be here for very different reasons, but it creates an awesome intentionality. We offer 56 different majors, 11 different minors, 5 pre-professional programs. And while we carry the title university, we are an undergraduate institution. So all of your courses are taught by faculty members. We get to carry the title university because we have 1 graduate program, but there is a whopping 12 students in it this year, and it is maxed out. But we really are just an undergraduate institution. Something that differentiates us a bit from other smaller liberal arts colleges is that we also have Division I athletics. And so we perform on a national stage within our athletic conferences. And that brings sort of a different level of school spirit to campus that you don't always get. And really kind of unites the student body in this like common spirit in a sense. As I mentioned, all of our students live on campus. We're a deeply residential campus. If there's not a club that we offer, you can create your own, but our students are highly involved on campus and go on to do incredible things after they graduate. 99% of last year's class was employed or in graduate school within 9 months of graduation. So that's a little bit about Colgate.
All right, so a little bit about Trinity. Trinity College is a small liberal arts school in Hartford, Connecticut. So Hartford is about 2 hours south of Boston, 2 hours north of New York. So we're kind of right in this sweet spot of easy access to major hubs of cities, major transportation hubs, and opportunities. Hartford itself is actually the capital city of Connecticut. So our students are able to really take advantage of what living in an urban environment in a thriving capital city is like, in addition to being in this small residential community. So Trinity is about 2,200 undergraduates, and we too are primarily undergraduates. We do have a couple of grad programs, but a majority of our students are here as undergraduates. We have 41 different majors, 26 different minors, and just like at many other small liberal arts schools, you're going to see our students combining their interests, combining majors, double majoring, picking up additional minors, and really shaping their academic experience the way they want it. I think the real takeaway, the real differentiator between Trinity and a lot of the small liberal arts schools in New England is our location, right? Being in this capital city, our students are able to walk down if they're interested in getting into the medical profession. We've got 3 hospitals within, I can actually see them from my window. They can walk down the street and do an internship or shadow a physician or someone doing research. If they're interested in political science, we are within walking distance of the state capitol. And so our students can do internships shadowing a politician as they're making laws. We've got one of the oldest art museums in the country right down the street from us, right on Main Street. So students interested in the arts or getting involved in different cultural opportunities are able to do that, and it's right at their fingertips. So the student that does well at Trinity is a student who is interested in putting what it is that they are learning in the classroom into practice in that same day, right? We have a couple of signature programs that are also somewhat differentiators for us as well. The fact that we are a small liberal arts school that has a fully accredited engineering program. There are few of us in the country that are like that. We have a growing human rights program. We just got a good amount of funding to grow that program, very strong neuroscience program. And again, because of our location in the capital city, very strong public policy and law program as well. We are a Division III athletic institution. If you've heard of Trinity, you might know of Trinity because of our squash program. We have a very strong squash program, pretty historic squash program. But there's a couple of other points that I will make. We are headed into, actually, this is our 200th anniversary. So we were founded in 1823. We're celebrating our bicentennial this year. So you'll likely be hearing more and more about the history of Trinity College, whether I get to get your email and I'll start sending you messages about Trinity, and what we're planning to do in the future as we grow the institution and grow the opportunities for our students. So that's just a little bit about Trinity, and I'll pass it over to my colleague, Tara.
Yeah, hi again, everybody. So I'm here representing Johns Hopkins University. So we are a mid-sized liberal arts institution located in Baltimore, Maryland. But we were really founded back in 1876, so a little younger, but we were founded as the nation's first research university. So with that has really come a global scale that we have. So we have schools down in DC, which is about an hour away. We have campuses in Italy, China. So we really just have like our hands in a lot of pots as we think about our Carey Business School, our School of Medicine, our nursing school. So as an undergraduate, you're coming into the whole entire Hopkins network, and you have access to really connect with those graduate students, whether it's for research or mentoring or alumni. You really are coming into the whole network as an undergraduate. Our undergraduate students have access to an open curriculum, so we have no core requirements. We've really found that our students who are most successful on campus are the ones who are excited about exploring and creating those interdisciplinary experiences while they're on campus. So we do have just over 50 majors and then 50 minors, but about 65% of our students are going to double major, add on a minor during their time here. And it's not things you would think about. So it's the computer science with philosophy, right? Not something that comes to my mind right away, but as we think about ethics and AI as we continue on of where we are, I think that's going to be a growing interest for our students. Outside of the classroom, outside of all that research, Baltimore is just like a really great place to be a student. We are pretty central East Coast wise. So at about an hour train ride outside of DC, 2 hours from Philadelphia, 3 from New York. So we have the airport, we have the train, so it's really easy to get around. We have students getting involved in community service within the Baltimore community. You're not just a Hopkins student, you're a Baltimore resident for those 4 years. And then getting involved in all of the clubs on campus. We do have just over 450, which is a ton for our small undergraduate class size of about 5,000 undergraduate students. And then we do have athletics as well, mostly D3, of which we are doing pretty well, lots of national titles there. And that one D1 sport, which is going to be lacrosse. So lots of opportunities to get involved, whether it's at division level, that club sports level. But I think the Hopkins experience is, that just research piece and that academic flexibility as you really thrive and find those interests that you have.
Wonderful. Well, before we dive in to kind of talk about the summer, I do want to ask the audience who you are. We are not asking you for fun facts, although if you want to share your fun fact, I would love to see it in the chat. So if you want to share with us what your fun facts are, you're welcome to do that in the chat. But first, I want to just ask who you are. So if you see the poll, let us know who you are in the process. We like to know if you are a rising senior just about to apply to college, or if you're still on the younger side and thinking about how do I spend my summers in the earlier years of high school. So as we watch these numbers come in, about 50% of you have taken the poll. So, and it looks like right now the majority of you are rising seniors. So you're getting ready to apply, which is a great time for you to be coming to these talks. But there's a few of you who are rising juniors or even rising sophomores. I see a couple parents in here. Thank you for coming, and a couple counselors as well. So this is a fun group, and that helps us a little bit as we talk about the summer. So my first kind of question before we even like ask you all to think a little bit is, given that my guests just shared about their institutions, I'm guessing that there are a few of you on this call who are about to get ready to go and do some college visits. And so I want to ask my guests today, like, what's the best way to take advantage of a college visit? If you're in the summer planning to tour a few schools, what would be some things that you would recommend?
I can start. I think if you're planning a number of visits, trying to stay as organized as possible. Especially in the state that I live in and that Trinity is located, there are a number of schools that you could hit and visit in one day, right? And so if you stay organized and map that out, you can get experience at a number of different types of schools. In Connecticut, there's a major research institution, there's an Ivy League institution, there are smaller liberal arts schools like Trinity that you could all see in one day. So if you stay organized, I think you can make it worth your while. And I also want to give a shout out to the parents and guardians on the call. Thank you for supporting your students through this experience. Remember, this is their experience. So give them time to experience these colleges on their own. And then after they've had that time to digest after the visit, maybe an hour later or the next day, maybe then you can go back and talk as a family unit about what they saw there. That's my tip.
Yeah.
I was gonna just jump off of that. I think Hopkins is in a really great place too. You do your like East Coast swing, so maybe you're going down to DC before or after us. We understand it, but I always tell students to just like make sure you're reflecting. If you're doing 3 college visits in a day, that's intense. Make sure you're taking notes during that time, or really differentiating in your mind what you liked about a school, maybe what stuck out, so that you don't kind of start to blur all of those together. I would also say, I know for us, we have different programs like Join a J or community lunches that you can tack on before or after your tours. So if you're kind of rushing through all these visits, you are missing out on different opportunities to connect with students in smaller, or our current students in smaller spaces. So I would think about everything that you can add to a visit before you just kind of start racking up the college visits.
Those were great points. And I think the only thing I would add is that when you're actually on a campus, make the most of the resources that are there. Don't ask the questions that you can find on a website. Don't ask the questions that are probably included in an information session that's recorded on our websites. Really utilize the resources that you have in front of you at the time, like the students that are giving you the tour or the admission officers that are there greeting you. And ask the questions that you can't find just by doing research. That's when you can be asking about, what are things you don't like about the school, or what's one thing you would change, or what are things that, like, how was your college search process and how did you find your way here? And what's something that's changed you since you've been here? Like, really just get to know the student that is there, because we can talk until we're blue in the face about our institutions, but we are not the current students that are there right now. And even if we've attended our institutions, we're not living the experience right now. And we are really great resources for you. And I encourage you to utilize us as resources, but please use the students. They are so much more engaging and interesting and fun and exciting than we are. Sorry, I know that Tara and Kyle, you guys are lovely people too, but I just really encourage you to utilize what you have in front of you at the time.
And just from like a logistical standpoint, like when people are, because I know that there's a tendency to kind of like, let's just drive, and then we'll just drive and stop by here, stop by there. But what's a strategy when it comes to kind of going to your website? Like, how do you maximize the college visit versus, I've been on a lot of college campuses, and I see a lot of people kind of taking a picture with the main, on the main lawn or with the main statue, but not go on the tour. So just what are some recommendations on how to strategize, like making sure you have a tour? And if you couldn't like get on a tour because of timing or something, like how else you could connect with an actual person?
You can always come to our offices. Many offices also have self-guided tours outside of their office. There'll be like typically a little mailbox, and inside the mailbox, there's maps of the campus that have information about a stop that you can take on your own. And so we recognize that sometimes tours are full, or you are able to squeeze in another school in between two tours that you had and you didn't know, or you're just stopping by and you realize, oh, I'm driving from one place to another and there's a college here. Do a self-guided tour. It doesn't hurt to ask either. Like, maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot for this, but come into our offices and ask us if there's room available on a tour or if there's someone you can speak to. If you don't use your voice to ask and speak up for what you want, be your own advocate. You're not going to get it, and you never know. There are so many times where we advertise that our tours are full and then somebody doesn't show up, or we've had another tour guide who's here and there is space available. And if you're on our campus, we want to do our very best to accommodate you and to give you an experience. Also, if you are on a tour, ask your tour guide what the places are that you're not seeing on tour that you could see. Maximize your time in that physical space and go check out the athletic buildings, or go check out the observatory on campus, or ask them what their favorite restaurant is in town too.
If I can add on to that, when you go onto our websites and try to schedule a tour, also look for other opportunities that you might be able to add on to that experience, right? So at Trinity, especially for rising seniors or students who are getting ready to apply to college for the fall 2024 cycle, we conduct admissions interviews, right? And so if you're on campus and you want to sit for an admissions interview, these are not designed to be pressure cooker situations to make you sweat. These are designed to be opportunities for you to ask questions on a one-on-one basis, and for us to learn a little bit more about you. So look for those additional opportunities that might be available to you. But my other thought is, I love what Tara said about being a resident of Baltimore, right? And I say the same thing about Hartford. When you're a Trinity student, I feel like you are a resident of Hartford. So I encourage students to, if they can fit it in their schedule, spend time off of campus. Right? My theory is your college experience should not be the dorm, the classroom, the cafeteria, and the quad, right? Especially at Trinity. If you're coming to Trinity, your experience is going to be in the city as well. So spend time off of campus. Ask your tour guide, ask a student, like, where do they love to go? And find yourself there. Maybe it's the farmer's market in Hamilton, New York, right? Go check it out. See if you find your favorite vegetable.
Wonderful. And for those, because not everybody is going to be able to come to the US this summer. So for those who are not, but want to really kind of take advantage of their free time to be thoughtful in their college research, we're taking a little break for Tuesday Talks. So would love to hear if there are like ways that students can kind of dig in a little bit more and do a virtual visit, and how to kind of take advantage of your virtual options.
I'll jump in. So when you go to our website, it's just visit Hopkins, and you can have virtual or in person. So I would say explore both of those to just see what the options are. But I think the one good thing that came out of the pandemic is just how much stuff is online now. We still have bi-weekly workshops on essays or college search. We have student panels about conversations around research or student life or living in Baltimore. You can connect with current students and just email them. You can see their face, filter by major. There's so many ways to like find the questions or get those questions answered online or in person. I was also going to say, for that last piece, check your email. So whether it's navigating our website or your email, I guarantee you have at least 2 to 3 emails from probably all of us saying, here's a admission session you can come to, sign up for a tour. All the information is really accessible. So just make sure you're reading those emails and checking websites.
Okay. I was just going to harp on the idea of connecting with a current student on our website, and I imagine on many colleges' websites. Even during the summer, you have the opportunity to connect with a real live undergraduate student. Will give you their real take on their experience, right? And instead of hearing from, a 40-year-old like me, you can hear from a 18-year-old who's actually going through this experience on a one-on-one basis. That's a great opportunity that if you have the time, I encourage you to take. And that's whether you can get on campus or not, right? Make those connections.
Yeah, I would just add that there's still webinar series are still alive and well. And maybe when we started this, we thought it was going to be very temporary, but there is a lot to benefit from these webinars. And many institutions, as Tara mentioned, are not just focusing on their own schools. We're actually trying to help you through the college process too, because we recognize that not all of our institutions are going to be the right fit for you. But if we can help guide you to producing a better essay or understanding what the liberal arts and sciences actually means, or figuring out how to interact with faculty members to better utilize your resources, then we want to be able to do that because we're passionate about education. And so I recommend checking out webinar series on individual websites to see if there are different things that you can take part in. There's also a lot of recorded sessions on many of our websites too. So it's something that you can passively be doing while you're doing something else, or maybe you're going to your summer job and on your way you're commuting and you can just throw it on your headphones and listen as you're going. So you can kind of do a lot of this stuff as it doesn't have to be like a whole day that you set aside for this. It can happen in little spurts. And I think there is a misconception about how all of this works is that you don't have to always be like 100% of the time spending all of your time doing college stuff the summer before. You should certainly be thinking about it weekly, just so that the pressure doesn't sort of amount to too much right before applications are submitting. But this summer should really be focused on you going through that college search process and understanding what the proper fit is for you.
And that's a good segue to talk about like what we actually want to do this summer. I think there is a lot of pressure, like, oh no, it's the summer before college applications, and like, how do I make sure I maximize it? So I'm just putting this chat question up there because I want all of you to kind of think about, well, what are you looking forward to about this summer? And feel free to type in the chat. I know it always takes a little minute for people to warm up to that, but I'm going to ask my admission officer friends too. What are you looking forward to about the summer? Anyone?
For me, it's I'm looking forward to a little bit of downtime that I'm not sure that I'm going to actually get, to work on some projects for the office, for the college, but also I think we all just need some downtime to just relax and spend time with family and have fun. I feel like for me, I've been in the academic world for long enough that I've gotten used to this cycle of kind of a busy fall, winter, spring, and then looking forward to a relaxing time in the summer. So I'm really looking forward to leaning into that and enjoying my summer.
I think every summer we look forward to vacation. And I already went on my big vacation this summer, so I'm looking forward to my next summer vacation. But I'm also really looking forward to, there's a big conference that happens every summer where all international educators get together in one location. And especially since the pandemic, it is such a fun time to see everybody that you haven't gotten to see. And this year it's being hosted in Miami, Florida. And so I think we're all a little excited to do that. And it's coming up in just a couple of weeks. So that's sort of my next, in my mind, that's vacation, even though it's work. So I guess this is also a plug to enjoy what you do, even if it is your job or something that feels like a chore. Always find the happiness in doing that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going to that conference for the first time this year. And then also vacation. I have more concerts planned in August at home. So I'm still the same, but excited.
Very nice. I'm curious, like who do you see? Who's on the docket?
The big one I'm going to this year is Outside Lands in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I think the three headliners are Kendrick Lamar, Odessa, and then Foo Fighters. So a vast range.
Fun, very fun. I'm also looking forward to Miami. I think that'll be really fun. And I get to see all these admissions officers online all the time. So it's really exciting for me to actually meet some of them in person for the first time. there's always this weird moment where you're like, you're taller than I thought you were, or you're a lot smaller than I thought you were. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also I have a rising senior myself. And so I'm looking forward to trying not to nag him about being on top of his things too. So I appreciate someone has written in the chat that they're looking forward to getting a high score on the SAT. So I appreciate that there's a lot of people that are feeling like some of the pressure. And so kind of what we wanted to do on this call is just help people kind of relax a little bit and think like, yes, there are some things that seem very, very important right now. And a lot of you wanting to really not miss any opportunity in the summer, which I think is a good perspective to have, but maybe we want to like think about it from a different angle. So my next question is, what do you want to learn this summer? Because I think sometimes when we get caught up in the list, we're not actually thinking about what we want to learn. We're more thinking, and I know this audience is a very outcomes driven audience. Like we are very excited about the actual goal, but the process sometimes gets lost. So what's something you want to learn this summer? And it doesn't have to be academic, it could be anything. What's something you want to learn this summer? Don't be shy on the chat. Yeah, it looks like lots of people are taking tests this summer. So, so I know that's stressful, but what do you want to learn from those tests? Ooh, somebody wants to learn coding. That's awesome. Astrophysics, wow. I'm gonna throw it back to the admissions officers because we should be lifelong learners. What do you want to learn this summer?
I've had it on my list to double down on languages, trying to be more proficient in a second language. I've got two young children. I've got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're learning Chinese in school, and I want to be able to communicate with them in a second language. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to learning this summer.
Nice.
I shared with panelists before we hopped on this call that I'm finishing up my master's degree. And so while I have learned so much about higher education, I want to learn to not focus all of my attention on the things that I'm trying to learn academically. And I'm trying to learn how to find things in life that are much more enjoyable than academia, which is, I love it. I've dedicated my career and my learning to this. So outside of the academic realm, I want to learn how to be better at golf. And I learned during the pandemic, but I need to learn how to not drop my shoulder so much when I drive. So that's what I'm going to focus on this year, non-academically. Academically, I'm going to focus on my thesis.
For me, this is the second year I have a garden. So I'm trying to not kill my pumpkin plants this year before I get to the fall. So I'll be doing my research there.
Wonderful. Well, there are some students that want to learn handwriting, which is an interesting thing. I mean, it's true. My handwriting has gone to kaputs now that we use the computer and the phone all the time. And there are people who are getting ready, taking some AP chemistry, some math. So I wanted to ask you all, as admissions officers, when, I think a lot of people are like, I need to fill my resume with things. So, so I'm going to do a summer program because then I can take another class, another course, or I'm going to self-study something so that I'm better prepared to what are your thoughts on that? And when you are looking at the application and you see, I don't know where people would write these things about their summers, but what are you actually thinking when you see that?
The first thought that comes into my head is, I wonder if they're actually interested in this because I don't see anything else about this in their application. So we want you to do things that interest you. And if a summer program interests you and you're fascinated by the material and you feel like it's going to help you prepare for college and you feel like it's going to help your brain like get more wrapped around the concepts that you're interested in, then that's great. But I want to see that students are doing things that they're genuinely interested in, because we don't want students on our campus who have not pursued their passions and don't understand, like, college is a time for exploration, and college is a time for you to do different things. And if you haven't taken time to explore different things that you're interested in, how are you going to do so when you're in college? And so we don't want you doing things because you think we want to see them. We want you doing things because you're actually passionate about that. If that comes in the form of a summer program, then that's great. If that comes in the form of learning the cello or taking a calligraphy class or studying astrophysics because you're interested in what's going on, then that's great. And that looks very different for everybody, but there's not one prescribed way that your summer is supposed to look and that summer programs are supposed to look.
And I would add that you do a summer program for a specific reason, right? If it's to get ahead so that in your final year of school, you can take an elective course or a course that you wouldn't normally be able to fit into your schedule, that seems like a fine reason to me. And then when you go to fill out your college application, I encourage you to explain that to college admissions officers like me. I took this summer course so that I'd have more time in my schedule during the academic year to pursue this particular interest. That type of context is always helpful for admissions officers as we're reviewing your application to get a better sense of your thought process.
Yeah, and I'll just emphasize that of the why are you doing these things and what is the impact or like the outcome of why you're doing these things. We want to know, how is this helping you grow? How is this helping you explore outside of school? If it is just learning a hobby, okay, cool. What are you going to do with that? Why are you interested in that? We're really just looking to learn more about who you are, what you're interested in, what you're striving for.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I I think that I was going to say, I feel like there's a lot of pressure because you feel like you need your academics to look better. But I think, I like to say, put yourself in the shoes of an admissions officer who's reading thousands of files. Like, what would make you feel like, oh, that's interesting, or like, oh, and I'm not sure it's another class, especially if you've taken a great rigorous load throughout your high school career. To take another class really should only be because you just wake up thinking about that subject. I kind of feel like that, because if you're waking up thinking with dread that you have to go to this class, then it feels a little bit like, oh, it's not the best use of your summer. So let's talk a little bit about like what outside of learning something, outside of class, that that you like to see. Like, I don't know if you guys have some memorable application about somebody's summer experience, or you just heard somebody kind of, on a school visit who was telling you their summer plans. Like, what are some things that have kind of lit you up a little bit and think, oh, that's such an interesting experience?
I have one that this student is still so near and dear to my heart because I read their application, I got to know them, but one thing that really stood out to me about them was they were kind of in this pickle where they were like, I don't know what I want to do with my summer before my senior year. I feel like it's maybe my last summer to really do something that's meaningful, and was kind of going through all these emotions of it. And then got so stressed out about it that she just ended up going. Her grandmother lived in a different country. She ended up going and living with her grandmother and learning pretty much about her family and about her family traditions. And her grandmother taught her how to cook, and her grandmother taught her how to farm, and her grandmother taught her how to like make olive oil. And it was all these things that were so small in the grand scheme of things, but she learned so much out of it. She actually ended up writing her essay about it, her college personal statement about it. And that was totally scrapped from what she had written in her English class the year before, because this was just such a life-changing experience that really taught her to like take a step back and think about the little things in life and value the time that she does have while her grandmother's still alive. And it actually made her want to go into anthropology to like learn more about cultures and everything. So it was a very, very, very small thing in the grand scheme of her life that changed really her perspective and her outlook on things. It had nothing to do with academics. It had nothing to do with learning. She had gotten to the point where she was just so stressed out that this was what she resorted to, and it sort of changed her.
Mm.
And that bit about the student that you were just talking about, Mari, that she got so stressed out, that's the bit that I want to emphasize, right? I think students and older individuals, especially today, mental health is a real concern. And being overstressed is something that I want students to pay attention to, right? I think we can all fill our classes with students who've got perfect GPAs and are taking all sorts of extra academic courses. But at a school like Trinity, and actually hearing the sizes of your institutions, right, we are not massive institutions, right? We want students who are going to be active in our community outside of the classroom as well, right? So over the summer, some things that you could be involved with, doing some sort of community service, community engagement, right? You don't have to do that, right? But that's something outside of academics that might fulfill you, right? That you might find value in. I'm a big fan of art. So if you consider yourself creative, do something that flexes your creative muscles. If you don't think that you're creative, you probably are. Do something that's going to flex your creative muscles.
I think for me, I like just seeing the array of things that students are doing. You don't need a summer program to be successful. Like you can be in a part-time job, you could be helping with younger siblings, you could be volunteering. There's really so many things to do. The one that sticks out now that I think about it though, was the student who just took a walk every morning, woke up at 8 a.m. with like the commuters and was just like picking up trash, talking to people in his hometown. And it was like no structured activity, but he was working to like learn more about his community, also helping to pick up trash and clean it up. Like, was the whole city clean? No, but he was having that little impact that he could within the city that he was in.
And I'll just say, I am an adult and I have lived for much longer than many of you. And I still have days when I'm like, I don't know what I like and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And, even when we were planning for this call and we were like, what's our fun fact? There's a lot of questions that I still have. So it is a lot to expect, you as a 16 or a 17-year-old, like, what are you good at? What do you like? I mean, this is a process that you're growing into. So, my recommendation for the summer is like, have a lot of conversations. We obviously do interviews at Initial View, so we're asking questions all the time. And when people say, how do I prepare for the interview? I'm like, I don't know how to tell you to do that because your story is not, no matter what tip I give you, I can't give you your story. But you'll be able to find your story if you start asking each other those questions. Because if you're like waking up in the morning and you're about to go to your math class, but you don't love math, then there's a question there. It's like, well, why am I taking this math class? And do I like anything about the math class? Or like maybe I'm going to this math class because there's this one person that I like. And just start kind of digging deeper to figure out what exactly is your motivation behind doing something. And if there's not a good motivation behind it, maybe it's time to pivot and shift. And my example is always the piano example, where I played really, a lot of piano in high school. And I finally went to a competition once and I talked to another rival of mine and I was trying to get at her other interests. And I realized she didn't have other interests. She practiced piano 6 hours a day. And she even like changed her schedule at school so that she could play more piano. And it dawned on me, I'm like, I don't love piano the way she does. And maybe there's something else that I could find that much interest in that I would want to spend time, but I'm not going to find it if I'm spending all my time here. So, and it being okay for you to suddenly put something down that you'd been working for a long time in your life because you're trying to find something that sparks that joy. So, you know, my recommendation is ask yourself a lot of questions and talk to a lot of people, because sometimes talking to another person makes you realize like, oh, that's fascinating about you. And that is making me rethink some of the motivations behind what I'm doing. So,
and Gloria, I like that idea of kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit, right? If I heard you correctly, you know, going to a piano competition wasn't something that was on your radar, but you're a pianist, right? For folks on the call, if there's something that's making you nervous, but also excited, maybe pursue that a little bit. Step out of your comfort zone, try something new. Maybe you will likely learn something about yourself, but maybe you'll learn something else along the way. So step out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that we're answering questions. So if you have a question, make sure that you ask it in our last few minutes. Let's see. I guess one of the questions I had was, for those that are kind of anxious about tests, what are your thoughts on tests? I know that you know, the world of admissions has evolved with tests, but just kind of thoughts on how to prepare, why tests are part of the holistic review process, and what, you know, how to kind of approach that. I think there's feelings of a lot of pressure on getting high scores.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're test optional still at Hopkins through the 2025-2026 cycle. So with that, I just give the advice of take it once, maybe take it twice. Do not let it stress you out. For us, we're really looking for like academic character wholly. So what else can we grab from within your application to see academic character outside of your testing? Well, we could look at your transcripts. We could look at the rigor of your courses. We can look at those letters of recommendation. We can look at the activities list to see everything that you're doing to explore those academic interests, build like that academic experience. So at least for us, I would say testing should not be a main stressor, especially in your summer, but exploring it once, maybe twice would be my advice.
Yeah, similarly, Trinity is test optional, and we were test optional well before the pandemic. So standardized tests like the SAT, ACT, not required to be considered for admission. But I think we all know across the country, different institutions have different policies around testing. So yeah, I encourage you to attempt one of those tests because you are likely not only going, hopefully you will all apply to Trinity. But likely this will not be the only institution, and other institutions will have different requirements, maybe for different academic majors to be considered for them. So attempt it, get comfortable with it, because they are at this point not going away anytime soon. For students whose language is not English, whose first language is not English, we do require some sort of language proficiency test. So maybe I saw someone was talking about their TOEFL exam. That is to ensure that when you come to campus, we can support you academically and socially, and that you hit the ground running with English. That's the only requirement if English is not your first language.
I'm going to probably take Gloria's line, but life isn't a test, and college shouldn't feel like a test either. There are standardized testing that have been standardized, but if you look at the history of standardized testing, it was actually used to place World War II veterans into like career placement and like college placement afterwards. And that is such a dated practice in a sense. And so while I probably shouldn't be bashing testing in a certain way, it doesn't tell us who you are as a human. And we would so much rather hear that from you in your initial view, in your application. Those are really important parts. And frankly, in this post-pandemic world where many schools are test optional, and we are one of them who is currently test optional through 2026 and waiting to just make a final decision, we do not see a difference between the students who submit their testing and who do not. when we have like a tiny little box that we check that says they submitted it or they didn't for their standardized testing, and then we move on from it completely and we don't think about it again. We want to see who you are as a human being, and we would so much rather you put that time and energy and effort into telling us about who you are through an interview, through your application. Certainly, if you feel like you want to take the SAT or the ACT, do your best and take it, but just please don't stress out about it so much.
Yep, we always say life is not a test. And I'm glad there are like people in the audience who are asking different kinds of questions. And it's not only about tests. So I do want to touch on everyone on a Tuesday talk always kind of wants to know, okay, admissions officer, what makes us stand out? Like, what are you looking for? And so, I think in light of all these plans for the summer, a little bit of it is toward how do I make myself stand out to you? So do you have any suggestions or thoughts or parameters or things that make you think like, yeah, that's the type of student that would be successful here at Colgate. That's the type of student, when we see that, we're like, there's the fit, or there's the spark that we want here on campus.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is students who are really being their own self-advocate, right? And are using their voice to communicate with our team members, right? So the Trinity admissions office, if you think that Trinity is a place where you can see yourself, connect with us, right? I don't necessarily need to see that you are doing some sort of super serious academic program over the summer. But if you're interested in us, I want to know who you are. I want to get to know you a little bit better. So the student who is going to take that initiative to introduce themselves, whether maybe via email or via phone or setting up a Zoom call with us, that's the student that stands out to me, the driven student who's speaking up for themselves.
I think I'll go back to my point that I made earlier on, is that we want to see that you're pursuing passions for you and things that interest you. Our campuses would not be half as interesting as they are if we enrolled students who all came from the same background and all had the same interests and all wanted to study the same thing. So there isn't one way that you should be conforming yourself to subscribe to this, algorithm that you think we have to selecting our students. We take a lot of time to read through your application, and we want to see these themes coming through your application of what you're interested in. And that's not just research because somebody says it's research. So we build our class so that it is filled with people who have varying interests. And while that doesn't help you because you don't know what other people's interests are, that's where it's really important to just stay true to yourself and really pursue things that you're interested in. And we can tell when your application is not written out of, feeling like it's actually you and genuine. I read many applications every year where I go, this is very fabricated. And I can tell that the student is not actually passionate about this stuff. And guess where that application goes? Typically not in their favor, because we have a whole slew of students who really are showing their passions and their interests.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that. We're really looking to build a community of students. And so we're looking for what you can contribute to that community. I think the most successful application that I see is the students that when I close that application, I'm like, okay, I understand fully who you are, what you want to do on campus, and how you're going to contribute outside of academically, socially, all of those things are going to be important. And as we're going through thousands and thousands of applications, the more context and the more of yourself you put into that application are those ones that stand out. And I get a good sense of who you are. So more context, more of who you are, being authentic about those passions. So yeah, really echoing everything else that you all said.
There's a question here about characteristics that you all look for. And, I think there's some characteristics that are universal and probably any college wants to see. But are there some, Kyle, you mentioned self-advocacy as something. Are there some kind of values maybe that are unique to your institution that you're like, everyone's super different. We're building a class, but there's some key things that we see that we like.
I think for us, we typically see students who have a certain sense of independence. We're located in a rural location, and there isn't necessarily like a big city to fall back on. And it does create, like I said, a very intentional community, but it can become intense. And so that's not for everyone, and we know that. But we do sort of see this sense of independence in a lot of our students, and that comes in a lot of different forms. Even if it's independence in having a part-time job or being a little bit, self-reliant for finances, or having done grocery shopping for your family, to just understand a little bit more about what that responsibility means. Because while you're not alone here, you are having to think a little bit more independently. And so we do sort of see that innate sense of independence in a lot of students who come through here. There's obviously, that doesn't mean collaboration is not a thing. It just means that you're taking the initiative to be collaborative in other ways.
And I will add, I think we're on the same wavelength here. Someone who is interested in making connections, right? Connections to what it is that they're learning in the classroom, connections to fellow classmates, or connections to any number of elements. And I think that there's an element of independence that is required in that, right? Someone who is going to be independent and driven to seek out those connections and wants to make those connections to form community. That's something that stands out to me as I'm reviewing applications.
I always say curious. I think the open curriculum gives students a lot of space to really combine and find new interests. But curiosity also spans out from academics. So curiosity about joining a new club. Maybe you've never danced in your life. You want to join like one of our dance teams, or you want to play a new sport, or curiosity about the community. And again, not just that Hopkins community, but our Baltimore community. So that student that is curious about everything around them is really going to be successful at Hopkins.
Awesome. Well, I asked for a few words of advice to share, and so there's a couple here for you to think about. But I mean, I think we've talked about that the whole time, just about having fun and really participating in things that you find interesting, not because your mom and dad told you to do it, not because some other person was like, "This works if you if you spend this time doing this type of research, or if you do this kind of summer program, you'll get into college." That's not, that is what we're trying to walk away from. It's very, very hard to do that, So we just want you to spend time exploring. Any other words of advice as we wrap up here?
One thought that we've been toying with in terms of just language, certainly the experience that you're about to go through, that you're going through right now, is a process, right? There are steps that you need to take. There are certain deadlines that you need to meet. But if you can maybe tweak the language just a little bit and consider this a journey, like the college search journey, I think, at least for me, someone who's kind of passionate about word choice and language, that changes the experience for me, right? It's a journey. It's not about just the end result. It's about everything that comes along in that process. So take advantage and have fun in that journey.
The only other thing that I would add is that there's no bad questions. There's no bad inquiries. We want you to ask us questions. We'd rather you not assume. We are here for you as a resource. Hopefully this has helped debunk a lot of the myths about not just what your summer should look like, but what your college search process should look like. And we want to be here to help you along the way. So please do reach out to us. If we can't answer it, we'll direct you to somebody else. Reach out to our students. Ask the questions that you're thinking about.
Say like retweet, ask questions, reach out to us. We are really, a majority of our job is making sure that this process is like as easy as possible for you and you have the information that you need. So please utilize us as one of those resources on your journey.
Amazing. Well, Mari and Kyle and Tara, it's been really fun having you on the talk. Thank you so much for spending your early Tuesday morning with us. And I'm going to hang out for a little bit longer since it's our last Tuesday talk of the summer. If somebody has a question about initial view or interviews, I'm going to hang out for another 15 minutes or so, but I'm going to let my colleagues go so that they can start to enjoy their summer and get ready for their fun conferences and projects that they need to work on, so that you all continue to have opportunities this summer to learn about them. So thank you again, Mari and Kyle and Tara. So good to see you.
Take care.
And for everyone else, we will have Tuesday talks again in the late summer, early fall. So keep your eyes open for more talks. But yes, I'm going to hang out here for a little bit longer. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. In case this is your first Tuesday talk, Initial View is an interview platform where you can do an interview with a live person, one of my trained interviewers, and you'll have a 15-minute conversation about anything you want to talk about, honestly. And then it's recorded, and then you can send that along to colleges as part of your application. There's a writing sample component as well. So you'll get one open-ended question and you have 20 minutes to write a response, type a response. And all of that is sent along to colleges. They can watch it while they're reading your application. So a lot of our school partners will listen in the background while they're reading your application. So it helps your application come alive. You can kind of explain some things that maybe you don't have enough room on the application to explain. A lot of that process piece that we were just talking about, the why and the motivation behind it, is the stuff that you can talk about in your interview that might sometimes be hard to come out on. For example, the extracurricular list, it's pretty short. Those the character limit prevents you from being able to say all that you want to say. So in the interview, you can develop that a little bit more. So I know, I don't know if Mark is still on. There was someone who had a question earlier about, I'm not sure he's still on, but there was a question about whether or not you take classes for TOEFL or you do activities that focus on English. And my recommendation is just trying to, you don't need to take a language test when you get to college. You need to be able to engage when you're in college. So that means you want to be able to go to an office hour and talk to the professor in English. You want to be able to be with your roommate and talk to them in English. You want to be in a lab, do some research, all without, it's not going to be a test. So taking a class, it's something that some people want to do just to be prepared for an exam, but my recommendation would actually be to practice more with your friends and your teachers, and find a foreigner to talk to, and just really kind of engage that way. And you'll find that there's quite a few schools that will actually put more weight on your interview than these tests, because they're trying to imagine you on campus. Any other questions? For some of you who signed up for a junior interview for the summer, that's a great thing to be doing in the summer. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of figuring out who you are is reflection, and it's easier to kind of do reflection when someone's asking you a question. We had multiple students come through and realize something about themselves during the interview that they weren't able to pinpoint before. So I think if you have the chance to do a junior interview, take that option. It's a great way for you to just kind of make sure that you can have a conversation back and forth, but and also get comfortable with the technology behind it. Do my earphones work? Is my background looking okay? Is my lighting good? stuff like that. But also, I do think that it's a helpful thing as you think about what you want to write in your essays and your supplements. Sometimes my favorite story is just that one student who thought she was very certain that she wanted to study economics, but after having a conversation with an adult about economics, she came out of the interview saying, I didn't want to talk about economics at all. I thought it was kind of boring, and I didn't really like it. Then I realized, like, I don't actually love this subject, and I don't know why I want to study it. And it really kind of shifted her whole application process and her journey. And she decided that she wanted to study something different. She wanted to, go to a school that had more of an open curriculum so that she could kind of explore her interests. So it's if you have the opportunity to do it, I would say, sign up for a junior interview. And if you don't have that opportunity, if you're traveling a lot this summer, or you're doing a lot of things, just be intentional about your conversations. Get your mom and sit next to her and say, okay, like, just ask me a lot of questions. And because I think as you ask questions, you'll feel much more comfortable having an answer. And then two, it will help you kind of think through what your story is. Any other questions? I don't have a list of set questions. So I know a lot of times people are like, what are the questions for interviews? I don't have a list of set questions, but I do, we have some goals. So if you want to think about it this way, be prepared to talk about something academic because you are going to be a student. So you want to be able to talk about your academic experiences, your academic interests, what you might want to do in the future. Some of you asked about what character traits our admissions office is looking for. And so we will try to ask questions that allow for you to share about your character. So whether that is, generosity, kindness, advocacy, leadership, these kinds of things, you want to think about how you could express those. Examples are great, stories, experiences. If you have those ready, then kind of any question that we ask, you're probably going to be able to fold that in. And then let's see, and we'll also ask you about how you spend your time outside of the class, because that indicates beyond, it actually shows it still shows your intellectual curiosity, because if you're spending some time outside of class learning, that's a great thing to share, but it also shows your other interests. So that's the way to kind of go into the interview, instead of being like, oh, what are the questions they're going to ask? Kind of go into the interview like, these are the things that I would like to display and share, and find a way to answer the question appropriately. Yes, there will be a recording of this meeting. So we usually post them on, I'll type it in the chat, initialview.com/TuesdayTalks/archives. So you'll be able to see the recording there. Also, if you have access to YouTube, they usually stay up on YouTube as well. Wonderful. Let's see, did I miss any of these questions? What should I wear? Okay. It doesn't matter, really. You should wear what makes you feel like you and more comfortable. For some people, they like to dress up because it just makes them feel like I'm very committed to this conversation, and it's important to me. But if you never dress up and you're not comfortable that way, we don't recommend it, because you might find yourself feeling distracted by the discomfort. So just wear whatever makes you feel comfortable. My only kind of recommendation on that front is to not wear something that would be distracting. So like any t-shirts with big words on it, or any words on it for that matter, because you don't want the interviewer's eyes to be drawn to something on your shirt, and you want them to be able to look at you in your eyes and have a nice conversation. So just don't wear something that distracts. Like maybe don't wear a college t-shirt or a college sweatshirt, because this interview can be sent to all the schools you're applying to. So you don't want to make any school feel jealous or like, oh, you don't actually want to come here because you're wearing that other college's t-shirt. All right, any other questions? Well, we have a lot of recordings, so if you missed Tuesday Talks this season, don't worry, they're all still online. So we talked a lot about different topics, and you're always able to go back and listen to those. So if you get bored over the summer and you're like, oh, I need to listen to some admissions officer explaining something, go back to our archives and check them. And then just keep your eyes open for check your emails. I know you get a lot of them. And so you want to kind of filter out, but check your emails and make sure you're not missing any fun activity or fun event. And we will let you know when we have our next lineup of talks in the end of the summer, early fall. And in the meantime, do enjoy your summer. Make sure that you have some time to just relax and reflect and learn something new, try something new. My daughter is learning how to crochet for the first time. It's kind of fun watching that happen. So I think there are a lot of fun things that you could try. And don't be anxious about tests, because life is not a test. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good night, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Bye.